he didn't think in terms of religious, secular, this
Right.
this denomination, that denomination. Jews are Jews,
Right.
and this is our book. People pick that up. I mean, that is the truth, and that's how I think secular people also experience it. This is our culture. This is our book. This is our heritage.
Every Shabbat, when I go to the synagogue, I see friends of mine with books in Hebrew or in English of the late Chief Rabbi of the UK, Rabbi Laura Jonathan Sacks. And now, finally, after many years and a few years after Rabbi Sacks passed away, there's this new Humash that came out just at the beginning of the month. And we're going to speak today with the lead scholar of this huge project and huge Humash, as you can see, Jessica Sacks, who's also the niece of Rabbi Sacks. Hello, Jessica Sacks. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine. Good to meet you.
As those can hear from your name, you are related. What's your first memory from the Chief Rabbi?
First memory is that's quite difficult. I have memories of visiting him and the family in Hamilton Terrace, in the home of the Chief Rabbi, as he was then. And
you grew up here in Israel?
No, I grew up in London as well.
Okay.
I made Aliyah 20 years ago.
Okay.
And I have a memory of being there, being with my cousins and aunts, and he would come out and from the important places where he was working on his books, whatever he was working on. And I remember him showing us how he read. He says, people know he read something like a book a day, and he showed us how first he skims and he marks up things to come back to.
Okay.
And it's interesting to remember that now, because as I've been working on his writings through the years and how he found things and always brought them back to his Torah and related them and made the connections in both directions. I remember that sort of having a little glimpse of how that was happening back then.
I think one thing which is interesting about his Torah, and one of these things that I only realized after he passed away, was the fact that he was so knowledgeable and he would incorporate so many things that have nothing to do with Judaism. It could be pop culture, pop singers that he liked. I was telling you before, so I interviewed, I guess a few weeks after the rabbi passed away, I interviewed your uncle, Alan Sacks. And he was showing me these emails and texts like back and forth. And they were talking about I can't remember right now, but these very mainstream pop singers, or rock singers. And they were schmoozing on the wording of everything, and that's something that he brought in to his commentary, right?
Absolutely. I think for him, and I think this really comes down to why the Chumash was such an important project for him. For him, the Torah is our oxygen. We live as Jews, and we've survived as Jews through all these thousands of.
Also, I guess.
Yeah, we've survived all that we've survived, not because of some genetic advantage that we've got, but because we have this culture that's carried us through and has grown with us and moved with us always wherever we've been, because we breathe in our surroundings, and we breathe in Torah, and we meet them both together, and we bring them together, and that allows us to face the world and brings the world into us. Yeah.
So basically this Humash, right? It's the 5 first books in the Bible. Have his commentary, and so you are the editor of it, or what's the terminology that you use?
I'm actually not sure what the terminology is.
You worked on it.
We worked on it as a team. We went through 40 years of his writing and his also his the audio recordings and transcripts that we have.
I love the audio recordings, by the way.
Yeah.
If only I had a voice like that. And, it's not only the voice, it's just, it's the way he presented everything. It was just, wow.
And it was such a diversity of sources. We've got lectures from divinity schools and speeches in the House of Lords and shiurim they gave to small groups,
TED
all
Talk.
of it. Absolutely,
Chinus
absolutely.
HaShluchim, Chabad, the big Chabad, event of the year. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we immersed ourselves in all of that. And we, I remembered him, reading what he read and pulling out, this goes here, this goes there. So in a way, we sort of try to reflect that process back and to harvest from his work and bring things home to the natural home for them, which is the Humash that we use day to day.
At what stage were you at?
Well, when we found out I was ill, we were towards the end of translating the Magaman Tanakh, which was
his big project.
It was his big project, and it was working towards the Chumash. Okay. He translated the Chumash, which is printed already in the Magaman Tanakh, and others of us were translating, had a whole team translating the Tanakh, editing. All of that process was sort of coming to its close when we found out that he was ill. And I mean, this was a terrible blow, of course. And one of my first thoughts when I heard this was, we've got to help him get the Humash over the line.
Yeah.
And the thought in my mind, we were so deep in proofreading and just getting the Tanakh out. I thought the moment we've got this done, I will ask, how can I help? What can we do to speed this up? What can we do to help find sources, edit, whatever it might be? Because I really felt he's got to see this through. I knew that this was such an important thing for him that he was building up to.
Right.
And within in the event, the Tanakh went to press within a couple of days. I can't remember exactly. It feels in my memory, it's as if it were the same day.
Wow.
That the Tanakh went to press. He passed away much sooner than I was aware. And so, the thought remained, how are we going to get this out? And it took a while to build that process, find that team, and work out how to do it, how to structure,
right.
And
so the translation was there, right?
Yeah.
But the commentary is really something you had to curate, right? To take from so many sources, and then how do you determine like what goes in and what doesn't go in?
That's a very good question. He had started working on the commentary, so we had something to look at and start with.
So like you learned from his thought process of like what he thought was relevant.
Well, he, as people will know, he'd done something like 11 cycles of covenant and conversation. So he'd been working with the Parashat Shavua for many years.
Right.
And if you look at any of his books, and really any of his books, whether he's writing about economics or whatever he's writing about, he's always involved in Bible interpretation. That's always what he comes back to again and again. So there was a wealth. You're right. There was a wealth to choose from. I don't know how to select. I think
maybe you have an example. I don't know, right? I don't want to put you on the spot, but like an example of a conflict, of not even conflict, right? Of like a debate of, okay, is this relevant, right? Because it could be timely. It could be something that was relating to a specific British government. I don't know.
Okay,
right?
Well, certainly we want this to be timeless.
Exactly.
And the weekly cycle that we go through every year. So yeah, absolutely, things that were to do with very, very specific issues of the moment. That wasn't relevant. But I mean, I'll give one example. The Humash is very long, and it contains, Baruch Hashem, it goes back to the same things again and again. So there was space for more than one idea on one topic, and we did try to integrate a lot. I think I think we managed to integrate an awful lot of his thought as it relates to the Humash. So I didn't experience a lot of conflicts about what to put in from that point of view. If we look at Not in God's Name, which I think we all should right now, I think it's the best book to help us understand the world we're living in right now. Maybe not coincidentally, it's also his fullest sort of integrated commentary on a biblical book that he has in his books. I mean, he often went in depth into a particular episode, but in Not in God's Name, he goes through the narratives of sibling rivalry, which were often, I think many people notice there's something going on with younger brothers in Genesis. But he really unpacks that in depth, every story, and almost takes that motif as a character in its own right. It's not just, we know much more than the medieval commentators perhaps had verbalized, that these stories do repeat in generations and families. And
not in your family, though, but in other families.
Oh, well... And, well, they repeat, but they develop, and there is progress. There is things get worked through. And he really, going through Not in God's Name, he really, really explores that going through. And so in the Humash will give people an opportunity. I think we often, in a Humash commentary, this is, it's our tradition to really home in on words and letters and, individual cantillation notes and find meaning in every specific isolated place.
Right.
And sometimes we don't so much have the tradition of zooming out, of reading it the way you would read a novel, experiencing it in its own rhythm, and then reflecting back on it and seeing the structure, seeing it from above. And that I think more than asking, do we put this point in or that point in? We were trying to help people see the way he saw structures as well.
So I think one thing interesting about Rabbi Sacks is definitely here in Israel, right? He is one of those people that after they pass away, they become more known and more accepted. I remember writing for other publications before I moved to the Jerusalem Post in Hebrew and interviewing, we did, I think it was a special supplement. Maybe it was a year for him passing away. We had a broadcast about it. And I remember interviewing some very hardcore religious Zionist periphery type, from the south of Israel. And say, he was saying I never heard of him up until, he passed away. And then I started reading and I was like, wow, this is what we missed. And, it was some would say the best kept secret in a sense, because Anglos, right, knew him, read him, quoted him. But here in Israel, it now, I think there's even, curriculum for schools, for day schools about Rabbi Sacks. So from your perspective, as a family member and someone working with your uncle, how do you see that evolving in Israel?
I don't know that I see it as a family member. I see it just as an Israeli walking around, as you say, people who I really wouldn't expect, they hear my name and say, hear that I'm English. Are you connected? Wow, right. He's my rabbi.
In Hebrew, it's Sacks, though, right?
That's true. He took the traditional.
Oh, he
spelling
did, and you didn't.
That's right. My other two uncles were the first to make Aliyah, and they took the more phonetic spelling. Right. So that's what I use as well, and he used the more traditional spelling.
I cut you off over there. So you go around Israel and people hear your name, and then what's the first thing that comes to mind? What do they say to you?
Oh, they say, I love him. I'm not religious, but I read his.
Really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. He didn't think in terms of religious, secular. This denomination, that denomination. Jews are Jews, and this is our book. And I think people pick that up. I mean, that is the truth, and that's how I think secular people also experience it. This is our culture, this is our book, this is our heritage. And he could speak to anybody. His prose, it respects the reader. It's beautiful, it's accessible. There's something here that is ours, and unites us. And people recognize it, and I think he also answers this moment that we're in. I mean, in the middle of writing this, October the 7th happened, and so the world that we finished this project in is not the same world
Right.
that we started it in.
But we still read it, and it's relevant. You know, it's funny. I belong to two synagogues. So one of them is more like a street minyan that's now in a garage, and almost every Shabbat someone will quote something in their Dvar Torah from Rabbi Sacks, and you're like, wow, this is relevant for.
Right.
And he did not go through COVID, if I recall correctly, right? He did not go through this war.
He passed away during COVID.
During COVID, that's all.
So he did actually.
I think
speak
even it's
to
like
that
people
a
were
little,
like assumed it was COVID and it was other issues or whatever. Right. By the way, I mean you knew he was ill. Most people didn't even know he was ill. It was just like it was a sudden.
It was very fast. Yeah.
Right.
It was very fast.
Was it a Saturday night? I think maybe it was announced. I don't know. I kind of
Yeah,
recall
he
it
passed away on Shabbat.
on Shabbat, like the big Gdolim do. So you spoke about his complexity and why, you know, people who are secular in Israel who come up to you and say, oh, like we read him, we love him. As someone that's been living in Israel for 20 years, do you think that this type of complexity could only come from a rabbi that grew up outside of Israel? I mean, I'll tell you my own opinion is I think it could not happen here in Israel. Like it had to be someone who grew up in that type of atmosphere and
I want to think that's not set in stone. I want to think that our education system can open up to other perspectives as well. But I do think you're right. I mean, he had the best secular education that he could have had. He had the best Jewish education that he could have had, although not school Jewish education.
Right.
Really.
Not as a kid, not as a teenager, only afterwards. Right. I think he.
Well, cheder, yeah, but it's certainly not the Jewish schools. Were
not a Jewish day school.
Yeah.
Right. And the family grew up just Jewish. Right?
Jewish,
like traditional British Jewish. I think that's what it kind of is.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right, yeah. They also brought the value of integrating into, seek the peace of the city that the Lord has sent you to. They really grew up with that value of integrating, contributing, taking the best from the culture and giving back the best you can give. That was very much the ethos. And I think he had this way of integrating things and bringing them into dialogue with each other, even if they're not necessarily saying, look, they say the same thing as us, or but seeing the way things can be brought into dialogue with each other, and really seeing and being proud of the way that the Torah has inspired Western civilization. Yeah.
Right. And if the rabbi were to be alive today, how do you think he would experience, this rise of anti-Semitism, something which he touches, a lot in his books, the war in Israel, October 7th, where would he be? What would he say? What would he do?
I don't have an answer to the question, what would he say?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want really to imagine it, because I think he would feel the suffering of our people, of the world, very strongly. I don't wish it on him. We mentioned the fact that he passed away during COVID. I wish we could have added more years before, but he passed away after giving his life and really living the life of the people. He passed away in that intimacy of a lockdown with just his immediate family, and I don't want to disturb him. But I think he would think very carefully what to say, and I'm sure he would say very helpful things. So if I knew, I would say, but I think he would be listening very hard. I think he would be bearing witness to the suffering that people have experienced and are experiencing, and the sacrifices that people have made and are making. And I think that he would be listening across a lot of divides and hearing people and their deepest and best motivations on either side of any fight that we find ourselves in, because we're so moved by fear and loss and anger often. I think he would hear the best in people, and that people would feel seen. Yeah, and
see, that's why Israelis don't listen.
Don't say that as something set in stone.
I know.
Not set in
A
stone.
lot of Israelis don't listen. And then I'm saying, so then sometimes, actually people who grow up in a more complex environment or whatever, have that ability. But, obviously I'm generalizing.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm very,
Absolutely.
my wife is very Israeli.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So what was your most enjoyable part working on this project?
Wow. I think it was just being immersed in his work for quite a long time, hearing everything, really seeing the development of his thought over those decades. It's very interesting because, of course, he came to public attention when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
So to go back and catch up on some of that and see really how much his thought developed and found its audience in new ways as he went through it.
So like what difference did you see in text from like the beginning of, I don't know, of his writing, and then later on, like what are the differences in his approach or the way he writes things?
The most obvious thing to say is that he started off writing for academics. And he ended up writing for everyone.
For the masses.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the masses almost,
I mean,
the masses includes academics.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a negative thing. I think I think that's what, that's what made him who he is the masses. And is this the same, what I said about Israel, how in Israel he became suddenly known and popular after his death? Is that the same from your experience, right, in other countries, or like different?
I've been living here, but
in the UK
so.
He was very known because he was the chief rabbi, and for those who don't know the British community in the UK, whatever, I mean, the chief rabbi, whether you're not Orthodox or it's a status. I mean, I remember writing about how the chief rabbi would have a meal with the Queen, or he was very close with then Prince Charles and Camilla, and so they had the same dish, but one was kosher and the other wasn't, but they made sure to be exact. So a chief rabbi in the UK essentially will have this relationship with the highest level of people in the UK, but also I think in the Anglo world. So in the UK, he was in a sense a celebrity, right? I mean, it's not, it's not like I don't know, other places around the world where smaller communities where it's not as known.
Yeah, I think that was also to do with him, that he was able to speak to a broader community, and he did.
He was on the BBC, I think.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
No, not like I think he had something like a regular or something. I don't know.
There used to be a broadcast at Rosh Hashanah, perhaps.
Okay. I thought there was something more. I don't know. I think there's even one where.
There's a radio. There's a thought for the day on the radio, which is very different figures speak, and he was certainly one of them. He spoke at universities. He was in the House of Lords. So he made speeches in that context.
Right.
And he had something to say to a broader audience, inward and outward, both directions. Yeah.
So for someone who is learning from this Humash, what would you recommend? What's the best way to approach it?
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't think too much about it because it has this. A Shabbat Chumash has a place in our life. It has a place in shul, and it gives people something to think about as they're listening to the reading of the Torah. So in this Chumash, you'll find each parsha begins with a sort of summary of the parsha, again talking about structures, and the beginning and end of, the beginning of each book, there's a note on that book, and towards the end, he generally talks about the structure of the book. And my hope is, and it comes back to, I think, to what we were talking about before, but my hope is that shul, people find their way into shul, and they find their way out of shul as well. And I I think this is, I think, what strikes me reading it back now in the time that we're living in, that many different kinds of people come to this, and they'll leaf through. Not everyone will agree with everything in there, but I think that many different kinds of people will find that they have a place here.
Find their place, or even something to read while they're listening to the reading or whatever, or something that they connect to.
Yeah, I think he had this philosophy. I mean, it is his philosophy rooted in the Torah as he reads it. People will understand when they use it that Judaism has, as not by accident but by design, Judaism has different voices, has prophetic, priestly, different voices that we need to bring into harmony with each other. And I hope that people will find themselves there, and they'll find, if not, okay, Rabbi Sacks agrees with me. If not that, they will find they have a place in this dialogue. They have a place in this conversation. And I really hope that this is so needed now, that the generation coming up will find a reason here to be proud of their Judaism and inspired by it and challenged by it. That's my hope for it.
Perfect. So Jessica Sacks, thank you so much for your time and for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.